So we have some time for questions for both of the interventions. Bob.
I think translation 5 into English is a non-starter.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me that in order to get the transition from evil from possibility to reality is not contingent, you have to treat transit as a noun, as it is in English, but it's obviously a verb,
right,
which would require not non contingens, but non contingente.
Right, I think that's right. Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Christia.
First of all, you two are insane for doing this. It really does. It's such a huge project. And the only thing I would add to the problems, really, is the fact that he refers to so many people. You know, I was reading through the Theodicy for the conference, and I just had forgotten sort of how rambling it is in parts, and also how many people are being referred to. So I just proposed that one of the things that you might do online as well is try to get people to join in the process of helping you figure out the kind of importance of some of these people.
Right.
Like the OED. Like they had solicited, you know, the professor of the madman. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that, Christian. That's a good idea, and I would want to add that it might shock people here how many of these obscure philosophers the texts actually I've looked at.
Yes.
So I have a particular version of that same question. So when I heard that there was going to be a new translation and edition of the Theodicy, I was excited as somebody who thinks Bale should get more attention than he does, because I believed that your Theodicy would contribute to Bale's scholarship. And I'm wondering how much space do you plan to devote to describing the context, Bale's debates with Leclerc, Jacquelot, Bale's philosophy, and whether the Theodicy ought to be considered a response to Bale or a work that can be considered independently?
Absolutely undecided.
Okay.
You could go on the website and push us.
Okay.
Right.
Ursula.
Yeah, I just want to make a small remark. When you mentioned the editions which have been done already, I would recommend that you take into account the one into German from 1744 made by Gottsched, because he has tons of notes, and that is a contemporary translation, and it is done by a Wolfian who was
Good.
Thank you.
In a very close connection to that. And when I study the Theodicy, I always use that one, you know, as a German translation, because it gives so much of the spirit of the time.
Thank you.
Nick Jolly.
Well, this is something that Sean and I have talked about a little bit. I'd like to hear the views of both of you on this in a public forum. We know that...
Under oath, or?
We know that Leibniz was capable of going straight to the point and writing short, punchy works about the same time, such as the Monadology, the Principles of Nature and Grace, and so on. Why is it that when he comes to write the one book that he publishes, he feels the need to burden the text with so much erudition? This is a variant of what was being asked earlier. What benefit does he see in referring to all these obscure scholastics and bishops and distinguishing one Stegmann from another Stegmann and so on, and telling us that he was not Bishop of Augsburg but Bishop of somewhere else? What's the point of it all? I mean, that is one of the things to which Christia was referring, and which is such an impediment for many people in reading of their Theodicy. There's a good deal of that in the new essays, but if my memory is right, there's not as much of it in the
certainly not.
as
Right.
there is in the Theodicy.
Right, I agree.
So why? Why did he make life so hard for
Let us answer.
Do we have different answers?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you. You picked that up in Sean's presentation, that there's an excess of strange learning here. I do think it's important. My belief is And in a certain way, this is sort of enough for me. My belief is that that the short, punchy versions are there, and then there's long, flowery versions with a great display of learning. For me, given the short, punchy versions are to be found, that's enough. The work, what can you do? We might have a final student edition Slay's short, punchy version where a lot of else is left out. But I don't have an answer to your... Yeah, really, it would, yes.
Well, Nick, all right, let me trot it out. So I promised it. I hinted at it. All right, so first move, the Bayle scholars will like this. First thing I would say is, have you been reading Bayle much recently? I think Leibniz, he's taught, he is making, writing a book, publishing a book, is making a speech act, as the Cambridge School scholars have taught us. Now, the immediate context for this speech act is the work of Bayle. Bayle has set an intellectual tone. Leibniz is going to go mano a mano with the author of the Historical and Critical Dictionary. Yeah. In fact, he's going to do it better. Well, at least he'll try and match it. How about that? And I think, so I'm inclined to think that Leibniz thought in order to get a hearing as somebody who could contest this matter with Bayle, he had to fight it out in a style that the learned readers of the day would have been accustomed to. Now, to make this case out, I think I can, so on internal grounds, I think we can begin to make it. The next step, and this is something that I thought about, I've consulted intellectual historians that I know, but they can't point me to the right text. What would really be nice is if we could find out that this was a style in the Republic of Letters, because the further step in the argument is that Leibniz is making a move, not merely with respect to Bayle, but in the general Republic of Letters. And that to understand the theodicy properly, we have to reinsert it in both its immediate context, in conjunction with Bayle, and you're Michael Hickson, right? And Michael is very familiar with the context of Bayle. But we also have to put the theodicy into a context in which historians of early modern philosophy are not that comfortable, namely the context of the Republic of Letters. Because I think that the theodicy is Leibniz's grand attempt to make a move in the Republic of Letters. He made minor moves, right, with some of the French works, not the Latin's published works. But the theodicy is the big move on a topic that is big. I mean, On the Origin of Evil went through 5 editions. You know, there are lots of other works. Bob and I were looking for the Causa Dei the other day in the Houghton catalog. There are lots of works called the Causa Dei that came out in the mid-70s, in this period. Right. So I think that more attention is needed to the broader historical context and the broader dialogue into which Leibniz is taking part. If that can be made out, I think we could clinch the beginnings, the Cambridge School argument that I'm proposing to make for the theodicy.
Oh.
Could I follow up just with that? I mean, I think a lot of people in this room agree that in particular circumstances, you know, Leibniz will be talking to the scholastic philosopher and use scholastic terminology. He'll be talking to the Cartesian and use Cartesian philosophy. One of the thoughts I've had, and this is just a thought, is that, I mean, from what I know, there's no tradition in the Republic of Letters of being quite this grandiose. I mean, unless you go back to the 16th century, where I think humanist philosophers were inclined to do that. But at least the people I know within Leibniz's immediate culture didn't do that quite so much. But my thought is that given that he wanted everyone to embrace this and take it seriously, or the whole scope of kind of European philosophers, then of course he's going to seem a bit rambling in the sense that he's going to give a little bait to everyone. So that's one possible explanation. Given that you haven't been able to find, and I don't know of any a tradition of in this period of treating. Or presenting ideas in that way.
Except for Bayle. I mean, that's pretty big.
I just want to say, it's not so much, you know, just the République des Lettres. It is a lot about the 3 churches. And that is about power, right? So I just want to remind you that he was not just talking about erudite stuff. It was about the three doctrines of the main churches in Europe. And Galileo has been banned. Descartes had been banned. Malebranche had get on the index in the end. And to be silent about Hobbes and Spinoza, Leibniz made it without. And that is exactly what he did in the Theodicee. It is a very diplomatic balance act to deal with all the different questions which could easily have cut him by any problem. And he went through, and that is why he needs so much flowers between, right? So he has to do it in a very easygoing way, but he touches on all the major problems between these big churches. So there's a lot of danger in that whole project, and that is also why it found so much attention, that it got so many translations on the European continent.
One quick concluding question from Moens.
Yeah, I'll make this one quick then. It's again about Bayle. Recently there was a book by Marc Parmentier that was published on the new essays, where Marc Parmentier goes through all Leibniz's renderings of Locke, showing how sometimes Leibniz is fiddling with it. How much does Leibniz do that with Bayle? And are you sort of trying to sort of hunt out whenever he tries to, whether he misrepresents Bayle?
Since
ever?
we haven't yet gotten into the body of the body, we haven't started that.
But we'll certainly do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you don't really know yet whether there's any, because I haven't heard anybody who had talked about how much he actually, how he represents Bayle. So we don't know.
Todd,
Intriguing
isn't a whole part of your book on this, on Leibniz and the Theodicy and Bayle? What do you have a view yet?
No, I haven't cross-checked. I don't say that much about Leibniz.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should.
On your earlier point, I think that
Got to cut
We'll
it
take
off.
it up.
Yeah. Let's thank all three of our speakers.
Good job.